So XRP has dropped by over 21% during the time of recording, and this has taken place over the past couple of weeks. Now, in my previous update, I mentioned how it was possible that we ended up completing this fourth wave, and I was looking out for that push to the upside where we could then begin to track the wave 5. And so I set out the next key target for XRP, which was this range here, between $3.31 to $3.39, where I mentioned we had a potential WXY structure that was forming, where of course this target here is the Y wave target. And I mentioned that for us to be bullish, then what we needed was for the price of XRP to continue to extend beyond this region and see that continuation to the upside to form the wave 5, where of course that wave 5 had the potential to reach anywhere between $3.85 to $4.18. And I mentioned that if we ended up getting rejected, then that would then form this WXY structure, and then we could see a further push to the downside where we could then breach past this level here at $2.95.55. And of course, that's what ended up happening, where we ended up reaching this level here, which then further confirmed that we were bearish. And so it looks like we are still within this wave 4, which is made up of a deeper corrective move formed of a WXY structure. So if I adjust this like so, essentially what we have forming is a W wave, where this W wave was made up of an internal WXY structure, where this Y wave exceeded beyond its typical region, which can happen in a bearish environment. And then this WXY structure that I was tracking in my previous update formed the X wave, and we had that final push to the downside where it looks like we are still within this Y wave. And as far as this wave 4 goes, this wave 4 typically retraces anywhere between 23.6% to 50% of the wave 3, which is this wave here. And so if I bring in the Fib tool and set out this wave 4 target, so here we ended up bottoming out at $2.14.75 to complete this wave 2. And then we ended up topping off at $3.66.07 to form this wave 3 here. And so that region sits between $2.80.38 to $3.22.77. And so we are within that region right now. And what I'll do next is set out this Y wave target, where again this Y wave has the potential to go slightly deeper than its current price at the moment. And so that Y wave typically retraces anywhere between 1 to 1.226 of the W wave. So again, if I bring in the Fib tool, and if I bring this to over here, which is the wave X, where we ended up reaching $3.33.08. So here you can see that the price of XRP has the potential to reach anywhere between $2.55.67 to $2.68.91. So there is still a little bit more room to the downside. And personally, I do see this as a good opportunity to be buying in at these low prices before we see that final push to the upside to complete this 5th wave. And depending on how deep this wave 4 goes, that will then result in this wave 5 potentially going even higher than the initial target that I set out. So for example, if we ended up bottoming out at this current price, which sits at around $2.88, what you'll see is the next key target for that 5th wave would be higher than the initial target that I set out. And so that wave 5 typically retraces anywhere between 1.226 to 1.618 of the wave 4. And here you can see that that region sits slightly higher than this initial target here. And of course, that could result in some huge gains for a lot of people. And so from the time of recording to this minimum target, which is the 1.226 level, you can see that you could potentially make profits of around 35%. And if we end up retracing towards the 1.618 level, then you can see gains of around 48%. And so yeah, I do see this as a good opportunity to be dollar cost averaging and buying at these low prices before we see that final push to the upside to complete this 5th wave, which in turn will then complete this 3rd wave here. And you can also see that on the stochastic RSI, we are within oversold conditions, and so it will be interesting to see if we see a reversal. But we have been getting rejected at the 50 EMA multiple times, which is a bearish signal. And given that we are trading below both the 50 MA and the 200 DMA, I will be looking out for that deeper move to the downside before we see that reversal. And if I go in the 4-hour chart, again, you can see that we have had a reversal on the stochastic RSI. And so the bears have now regained control of the market, and we are now on the brink of reaching the oversold conditions. And here you can also see that we did get rejected at the 200 DMA, and we're now trading below the 200 DMA, which again is slightly bearish. And so I will be looking out for that continuation to the downside. But you can also see that we have some buy orders between $2.67 to $2.75, and between $2.82 to $2.88. And so again, there are people out there that see this as a good opportunity to be buying in before we see that push to the upside. And if I go in the 8-hour chart, again, we have had that reversal on the stochastic RSI, and so the bears have regained control of the market, and we are now on the brink of reaching the oversold conditions. And you can also see that the 200 DMA actually coincides with the target that I just set out, and so we could potentially find support at this 200 DMA and then see that bounce to the upside. It's also possible that we wick below this 200 DMA and tap into this region and then see that reversal to the upside. And if I go on the daily charts, again, we are within the oversold conditions. So at some point, I am looking out for that reversal. I'm not necessarily too concerned about this deep move that we've witnessed over 21%. I do see this as a good opportunity to be buying in before we see those huge gains. And so, yeah, that's a smart update on XRP. Hopefully you found this useful. And if you did, then feel free to hit the like button. And if you're new, feel free to subscribe. Take it easy, people. Peace.